Hare Krishna. My name is Vasudev. I was born in Paris, but was brought up in south of France, a town called Montpellier, which is a college town. So when I was after high school, I went to university to study philosophy. Actually, it's the only thing that interested me. I wasn't worried about getting a diploma or a degree. I just wanted to know what is life all about. And I thought that philosophy was probably the best way to arrive to some understanding of the purpose of life. I studied all the philosophers of at least the Western philosophers, starting from Plato, Aristotle, and all the way to Jean-Paul Sartre, the French existentialist. And I admired them quite a bit. I had incredible taste and curiosity to study philosophy. But at the same time, I felt restless, traveling around the world and experiencing for myself life around the world. So there was a conflict there, and after 1 year at university, I decided to drop out and take a sabbatical year. So with a childhood friend of mine, we decided to go across the ocean from England to New York. There was the first cheap airline, Freddie Laker. And so that was our chance to be able to afford the flight across the big ocean. And we landed in New York. But I must say that prior to that, this was in 1978, and prior to that, in 73, I had met strange people on a Paris street once in the summertime. And as I was coming out of the metro, I heard this chin, 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 chin. There was some fun going on outside the metro, and I thought, I got off the metro at the right place. So full of excitement, I go onto the streets and look for the source of this sound, but I couldn't find anything. So I started walking down the street, and then I saw these 4 or 5 men without hair, shaved head, very clean shave. And I thought, my God, what are these, some sort of tribals? We don't have that in France, though. Well, where could they be coming from? Not Africa. They were white, as white as goes. And so I couldn't put an origin to their country, where they might be coming from. But they had also a tuft of hair hanging behind their heads. And they had these symbols, which is obviously what I had heard from the metro. And I thought, okay, well, we're probably going to hear some more. But no, it looks like they were just wrapping things up. They had done some music. In Paris, it's not unusual, musicians playing music on the sidewalk. And they were calling it a day. They were going home. And I was about 16. I was a bit shy. I wanted to talk to them, but they didn't talk to me. Had they told me, what's your name, etc., and come to the temple, have some prasad, I probably would have followed them. But they wouldn't approach me, so that was it. I had heard only a few notes, and maybe that was the beginning of something. But I remember on the television a couple of years later that I saw a light-hearted report on the television news about these Hare Krishnas. And they said, oh yeah, they're the guys that I saw in Paris. And there they are again, and chanting and singing. And I saw a picture of their guru. So I never met Prabhupada, but that was the one time when I saw Prabhupada in the 70s on the television. And now I hope to think that it means something. This is as close as I got to Prabhupada. But another instance of encounter, it was in 76 when there was a festival in the south of France. And a music festival where at one point I see these same looking people. So I thought they must be all over France. And they were distributing food this time. Free food, vegetarian food. And they asked me if I wanted to help. So I started helping. I did some service. That was the first service I ever did. And I think that this probably did me some good in terms of Agyata Sukriti. But that was 76, and I wasn't ready to go any further than that. Until in 77, maybe 78, I was at a friend's house on a Saturday night, and it was the same friend with whom I had gone to the festival. And he, just at midnight when everything was wrapping up, I saw on the floor of his flat a Krishna book in French. Fresh from the press, because that's when the first Krishna book came out about. And I looked through it, absolutely charmed to see the letters Krishna, I remember, and the beautiful colors of the book done, you know, with a lot of care. I could tell there was devotion put in there. And most of all, this incredible picture, painting of a young man and woman hugging. And I surmised this must be Krishna. Who was the lady, I didn't know, but I was very attracted. I remember this. I was very drawn to it. So I started opening the book, and I saw that there was a lot of philosophy in there. So I was a philosophy student. I became interested. I checked out some words in the glossary and the index, and I thought, this book looks like this is a book of philosophy with stories. So I begged my friend to let me borrow it. And he said, "Oh, yeah, you can have it." So, where did you get it? And he told me the story of how he met someone on the streets who put the book in his hands, and he looked like he was a nice guy. He asked for a donation. My friend gave him a donation, and he took the book home, but he was not interested. So this is an example of what happens to books after people get it one way or another. They may not read the book, but their friends, their relatives. Like in my case, I was one of the friends, and that book was actually meant for me. And I read it, at least I tried to read it, but it was difficult. And so that summer, I decided I'm taking a sabbatical around the world. My friend and I, we were going to travel around the world and try to make sense of life. So we traveled to London, which was where Freddie Laker Airlines was set up, and we flew across to New York. At New York City, I had another encounter with the devotees without knowing it at Grand Central Station. They were selling tapes with Stevie Wonder, George Harrison. They weren't actually playing in the tape, but they were part of a charity, and they tricked me. Then I wanted to get my money back, but they disappeared, so I got stuck with those tapes. And I gave a donation. So again, I did some Agyata Sukriti. And at that time, I wasn't doing well in my head. I was feeling depressed, confused, very confused. I'm traveling around the world. What am I doing? I don't know where I'm going, what I'm looking for. So I was not doing well. Of course, there was a lot of excitement, New York City, but I felt so much distraction, so much dispersion of my mind. I wasn't up for it anymore. I should have been, really, this was what I had been looking forward my whole school life. Finally, I'm out of school. I've got my high school degree. I can just enjoy life at last. I should have been happy, and I felt miserable. There I was in New York, and we hear about this auto drive away scheme. You go and collect a car, and you can drive it for free across the United States to San Francisco to deliver it to the owner who doesn't want to come and do it himself. So that, we had to pay for petrol, and we decided this is what we're going to do. We went across to San Francisco, and in San Francisco, again, another big melting pot is the setting of the hippie age, where they had just it was 1978, so it was a little bit late for the flower power movement, but still there were a lot of that vibes, and the Jefferson Airplane and Grateful Dead were playing at the Coliseum still. It was still in the air. And that is when, as I was looking for a job on Telegraph Avenue of Berkeley, that a lady approaches me with a little bit of pity in her eyes, because she saw I was just as depressed as the bum next to me in front of a bar, not knowing what to do with our lives, a bit loitering and confused. And I saw myself going down the slope of confusion to be like this other bum, maybe only a few months ahead of me. So I had reasons to worry about the direction of my life, or the lack of it. And this lady came and said, hey, you guys, you better check out the Hare Krishna temple and get yourself a free vegetarian meal. Oh, excuse me, what did you say? The Hare Krishna temple? Yeah, it's down the Telegraph Avenue to Stewart Street. I'll take you there. And she was a Sunday feast person, I found out. And, she was preaching in her own way, bringing people to the temple. And I was like dying to meet Hare Krishna people, because I had so many questions about the book. And the book was too difficult for me. I didn't have a training or a schooling in Hindu culture. So I followed her and landed at the ISKCON Berkeley temple on Stewart Street. And there was a store, a shop inside the temple where I checked out, and I saw a picture of Prabhupada. I said, yeah, he is the one I came to meet. Can you tell me where he is? And so they took me to the temple room, and there was a statue of Prabhupada, a murti of Prabhupada. I said, yes, that's the one. Now please take me to him. And I said, well, Srila Prabhupada left a few months ago. But there is a new guru now. He's young, and he's very dynamic. You should meet him, and he's really great. And so, it sounded good, but I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed to learn that Prabhupada, the guru who was traveling around the world, as I had read in the book, and I was hoping that maybe I could catch up with him at some point. Well, he was no more. And so I had to accept that. And I hung around, I asked my questions, I met some devotees who spoke French, and they gave me prasadam, and I particularly noticed halva as like, wow, blew my mind. This halva It tasted like spiritual food. I didn't know what spiritual food was or material food. It just tasted spiritual to me. So I went back to the temple. First, the devotee preaching to me gave me the Maha Mantra. And when he said, we have a mantra, and if you recite this mantra every day, then you reach a point of consciousness that is called Krishna Consciousness. And I thought, wow, I had already been given a mantra by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I was not exactly a disciple because I didn't see him as my guru, but I had paid some fee back in France, and I was doing twice a day, 20 minutes. And that was, I suppose, a good exercise to get started with. But I wanted more. I wanted more. And now, being at the temple, being offered a free mantra this time, no money. When he spoke the mantra in my ear, I thought, I couldn't believe it. I said, oh, he's actually giving me the mantra for free. So I opened my ear very wide. Okay, all right, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And when I left the temple that night, I went back home, and I kept repeating, first not so I don't forget it. And then it just kept on running through my tongue and ear. But what I remembered was Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Rama Rama. That's what I thought. I got it a bit more, slightly wrong, but suppose I got some benefit. And I decided to go back to this temple. It became like a new sort of something to look forward to in Berkeley. Everything else seemed to be just not worth it, even though I should have been excited about so many things, but I just didn't have a heart for it. And this I had a heart for. This was philosophy, this was substance, this was meaning and spirituality. That's what I was up for. And at the same time, I was reading another book called Be Here Now by Baba Ram Das, which at the time on the west coast of America was the big thing. But this book didn't give me any solace. In fact, it freaked me out. That, what do you mean, be here? And I'm here now, and I'm miserable. And everything is one. Jesus Christ, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, everything is one. As if it was a good thing. But everything is one. This is like ever so confusing. So I went back to the temple for more knowledge, for more clarification of things. And they came to the point of suggesting that I might consider staying in the Bhakta ashram and go through the Bhakta program. So I thought, well, that might be an idea, yeah. And then things at the house where I was staying didn't work out so well anymore. My friend had found himself a girlfriend. He didn't speak a word of English, and she didn't speak a word of French, but the sex seemed to be all right, so they were getting along. And I didn't have anyone that I fancied. And nobody fancied me, so I was like, materially exhausted, I seemed. And I decided, let me try the temple. I can just try a couple days and see how it goes. Then if it works, then I can stay longer. That's what they had also suggested. So there I am at the temple, Mangalarti, the whole morning program, the class, and the next day getting up early. I couldn't even imagine getting up at 4 in the morning. But I did it for a few days. And then I thought, okay, it's worth going on. Something is finally happening in my life. This is what I want to happen. I stayed a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The guru came to the temple, gave a Sunday lecture, and then he gave a darshan, Hansadutta Swami. And I thought, okay, he sounds all right. He doesn't feel like the old man, the Prabhupada, but if he is a guru, I guess. And then he went away, and again he came back a couple weeks later, and I was told that because I was chanting every day and following the program, that if I wanted, I could take initiation. I said, what do you mean initiation? I only chant 6 rounds. And I just came. I still had hair on my long hair. And so they said, yeah, well, you know, if you get initiated, you can chant 16 rounds. It's just 10 more. Think about it. No pressure. So there I was, with this choice in front of me. I would remember going in front of Gaur-Nitai, big Gaur-Nitai deities in Berkeley, and I cried. I just burst into tears. That I have been looking for God my whole life. I've been so confused, and now suddenly I'm getting some clarity. And I'm feeling strongly that God is coming into my life, that you are coming into my life. And you're telling me, just say yes, take initiation, accept this way of life. And I am going to say no? I just couldn't. So I went to the authorities and I told them, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take initiation. And I'm going to chant and follow the principles, everything I'm supposed to do, because that's the life I want. And the Guru came the next Sundays, and there was an initiation of about 4 or 5 people, and I was one of them. And from that day on, with a shining head, my life had gone from miserable to born again. I felt like born again. I felt completely transformed. Right from that beginning. Although just a few days before that initiation, I had gone on a japa walk outside the temple, and I had again cried, because I realized that joining this movement was a matter of course. It was a foregone conclusion that everything in my life seemed to point to this. I was at a crossroads, and there was no question of doing anything else. Everything was pointing in this direction. But what it meant was no meat eating, fish or eggs. I loved those 3 things. No more intoxication. I still enjoyed the spliffs and the MDMA, which was the latest version of the psychedelic, LSD range. No more intoxication, no more gambling, which was okay, no problem with that, but no more sex, are you kidding? That was the big one for me. No more girlfriends, no more, that was like, I had to do it, so I cried. I knew that this was the price for it, and I couldn't even think about it, I just did it. And doing it cold turkey is really was the way for me. That every day at a time, it works out, and I became celibate for the next 6 years, completely celibate. And then I thought maybe I should take to Grihastha life at some point, but things worked out for me. Thanks to ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada and the lovely followers of His Divine Grace who have nicely taken care of me, even throughout the tribulations of ISKCON's growth post-charisma, after Prabhupada's departure, an ISKCON that is looking for itself. So I was looking for myself along with trying to go along the pains, the growing pains of the ISKCON movement. Thank you very much.